Let's talk about my favourite topic to talk about, books and cults. Hello my friends, my name is Michaela. Welcome back to my YouTube channel where we talk about all things thriller books. This is the start of a brand new series that I'm going to be doing on my YouTube channel where I'm going to be recommending you thriller and horror books that centre around certain tropes. And the first one we're going to be doing is my favourite, cults. Something about me and cults in thriller books, I absolutely love them. I've got so many recommendations to give you, so I'm just going to shut up. If you want to stick around for this brand new series, I would love it so much if you could hit the subscribe button and let's get straight into it. The first book I want to speak to you about is called The Last Housewife by Ashley Winstead. Now, interestingly, this is the only book that I have absolutely loved from Ashley Winstead and one I still think about all the time. And I think that's like the true sign of a good thriller book, like a book that stays with you. I want to say I read this book like 2 years ago and I still think about it. The Last Housewife starts out and we meet our main character called Shay as she is listening to her favourite true crime podcast and she finds out through that podcast that her best friend called Laurel, who was her best friend in college, has died. Obviously, she's shooketh because that's not a great way to find out your best friend's dead, is it? Through your favourite podcast. And she starts to think it may be linked to the cult that they were involved in when they were in college. Shay contacts the true crime podcaster and says, I may have some information on this, and it causes Shay to revisit her past and things that she thought she'd got over that she probably actually hasn't. The book is also told in past and present timelines, so we do get to see Shay and her friends as they get involved into this cult, how they get pulled in, how they get seduced by this older man, and what actually went down. Let me tell you, this book is so dark. Like, I don't think I was prepared for how dark and twisty this book was. There was parts of this book that had me gasping out loud, like literally on the floor, shooketh. And that's why it's one of my favourite cult thriller books. The Mirror House Girls by Faith Gardner is one that I actually only read a couple of months ago, but it is definitely up there with one of my favourite thriller books. This is one that's on Kindle Unlimited. I think quite a few of these books are on Kindle Unlimited, so I will put on screen which ones are and aren't. I've also read a few books by Faith Gardner now, and I absolutely love them. And this one was no different. We meet Winona. Winona has sadly just lost one of her grandparents, so to try and deal with this, she's gone to a group grief counselling session to try and come to terms with it and be around people who are also going through similar circumstances. As I said, Winona has just lost her grandparent, but her life just isn't in the place that she wants it to be anyway. Like, she's not having a great time. In the group counselling session, she meets another girl who's like, hey, like, if you need somewhere to live, I rent a house in the Mirror House. Come along, like, we'd love to have you. We're a family. When they mention the word family, friends, that's when you need to run. The house is a mirror house, obviously, and it's full of girls. And there's one man there. Like, another red flag. But what is actually so interesting about this book is you really see it from the beginning. You really see how Winona is like wooed, how she is persuaded. Like, I feel like this goes like into the depth of psychology on how people actually get pulled into cults. And it's just a car crash waiting to happen. And like I said, you see it from the beginning to the end. And I absolutely loved it. So many of you have told me that you picked up this book as well. And so many of you have told me that you loved it, which makes me so happy. I've actually only just spoken about Rachel Harrison's Black Sheep in my spooky season TBR video. So if you've just watched that and now you're watching this, I'm so sorry. But this is a video about my favourite cult books. I had to include it. Not only is this one of my favourite cult books, it is one of my favourite thriller books of all time. It's not even a thriller book, it's a horror book. But Rachel Harrison's books always feel like a bit more like thriller horror to me rather than like horror, you know. Our main character in Black Sheep is a girl called Vesper. Now, we meet Vesper as it's been a few years since she left the cult that she was brought up in. Her family are still very much involved in this cult, but she had to get away. She's now working as a waitress when one day she gets an invitation through for her cousin's wedding, who is still very much involved in the cult, and she thinks, that's weird, because when I left the cult, they said, never come back. You will never be welcome back here. So she's thinking it's a bit weird that I've been invited back. But of course she's going to go. I can't tell you what sort of cult is in this book because I think it's a major plot point. You do find out 50 pages in, but if you go on Goodreads, people are saying what the cult is. But in my opinion, that's a spoiler because my reaction when I found out what sort of cult this was, I feel like it made the book for me as well. It deals with complex family relationships, like complex mother-daughter relationships, and the shit that goes down in this book. Like, go into it knowing that it's camp, it's fun, it's very much not serious, and I swear you will have a fantastic time. Well, I hope you do, because like I said, it's one of my favourite books of all time, and I will cry if you don't like it. No pressure. Make No Mistake by Steph Nelson is another one that I've only just recently read. I actually read it on my honeymoon in my honeymoon reading vlog, and one of you lovely subscribers recommended this to me, so thank you so much because it's now made it in this video. Dallas is a single mum, and sadly her little boy was born with a severe heart condition, and eventually he is going to need a heart transplant. So to try and support this, because she lives in America, and I feel so sorry for you guys, for your healthcare system, she is trying to work 2 jobs so she can afford his medical bills. One of these jobs that she has, she waitresses, and she meets her old school friend while she's at this job, who's called Michaela. Guys, I've never read a book with somebody with the same name as me. Like, it was even spelt the same. I was like, this is crazy. One night during this waitressing job, Michaela says to Dallas, that's the local church crowd. They don't tip very well. They're basically just here for the unlimited fries. She gets talking to one of the guys, and she actually gets invited to go to the church for like a little summer party, and they're like, bring your son along. From there, Dallas starts to realize that maybe this isn't just like a normal church group, and everybody seems to be centered around this one woman who says that she can heal people. And Dallas very quickly gets pulled in because of course her son is really poorly, and she will do anything, maybe even join a cult to save her son. Now, I do want to put it out there, you might need to suspend your disbelief with this. If you're not a fan of suspending your disbelief, you probably won't enjoy this because there is kind of a touch of like magical realism in this book, I guess, because like I said, she can heal people. And like personally, I don't mind a touch of magical realism in my books. So just go into it knowing that. If that's put you off, probably don't pick it up. But I had a really, really fun time reading this book, and I'm so glad I picked it up. I've read 3 books by Steph Nelson now, and I've really enjoyed all of them. So I'm so excited to pick up more from this author. If you have any recommendations, please let me know. My queen, Lisa Jewell. And my favourite book from her, which is The Family Upstairs. I've read this book twice. I read it once physically years ago, and I've done it on audio. And I would recommend the audiobook actually. I thought the audiobook was so well done for this book. Libby has just turned 25. Libby is adopted. She's always known that she's adopted, and she was brought up knowing that. And she has just received a letter on her birthday from a solicitor saying, you have inherited the house in Chelsea, London, like mega rich people, where you were found as a baby and everybody else was dead. Because when Libby was a baby, as I said, she was the only person found alive in this house. Her parents and all the people that lived in this big house in Chelsea had like taken part in a mass group unaliving, and she was the only survivor. I was gonna say, would you even want the house? But like, it's a house in Chelsea. It's gonna be worth a fair bob. But what Libby also doesn't know is that there are people out there who have been waiting for the day that she turns 25 and inherits this big house. So who are those people? Something you should know going into Lisa Jewell's books is, I think personally, in my opinion, that her books are more like character-driven thriller books rather than plot. And I also think like she doesn't do these wild, shocking twists. And I think that's why people sometimes get disappointed when they read Lisa Jewell's books, because I feel like she's just amazing at like putting all the pieces together and letting the reader figure it out before the main characters do. And then people are like, oh, well, I guess that. And I'm like, you're meant to. And it annoys me when I see people rating the books down for that reason. I'm just like, that's exactly what Lisa Jewell wanted. There is a sequel to this book, which is called The Family Remains. I'm not usually a fan of when authors write sequels of a book that wasn't meant to have a sequel, which The Family Upstairs was written with no sequel in mind. But I love The Family Remains, not quite as much, but very closely to The Family Upstairs. I think like the character development in them were incredible. And like, if you have read these books, all I'm going to say is Henry. If you know, you know. Okay, switching it up for a second, the next book I want to speak to you about is called The Mysterious Case of the Alperton Angels by Janice Hallett. Now, the reason I say switching it up is because Janice Hallett writes in the mystery genre, definitely still like thrillery, but she only writes in mixed media. So this book is told entirely through mixed media. We're getting transcripts of interviews, transcripts of telephone calls, emails, newspaper clippings, and I bloody love that. A true crime author named Amanda is looking into the case of the Alperton Angels for her next book. The Alperton Angels was a cult that took in a mother and her newborn baby and convinced the mother that her baby was the Antichrist. When the mother came to her senses, thank God she came to her senses, and called the police, the rest of the Alperton Angels unalived themselves. The mother and the baby disappeared and nobody ever knew like what the outcome was of like their trauma or what happened to them. The baby's just turned 18 and Amanda is determined to find the baby. You feel like you're really part of the investigation in this one because as the book is starting out, you're delving into all of the evidence that Amanda has and working out the story alongside her. Like, I really did feel like I was like being a little like true crime detective. And I think the idea of mixed media, I love it. I have got a whole video full of mixed media thriller book recommendations, so I will leave that in the description and up above. Definitely go check that out if you're looking for more mixed media books. Blood Oranges by J.M. Cannon is a book that I do not see nearly enough people speaking about. J.M. Cannon is an indie author that I actually met through TikTok a few years ago, and I read this book a couple of years ago, and oh my God, I absolutely loved it. It blew me away. This book isn't your typical cult. We're dealing with a mega church pastor, so it definitely still has that like cult vibe. I couldn't believe that these mega churches are like actual real life things. Like, we don't have those in the UK. And I fell down a rabbit hole, like looking up to see if they were real, because the way it was being described, it's like they had like basically a shopping centre inside, like escalators. They were huge. And I literally fell down a rabbit hole. Crazy. The pastor of this mega church is called Catherine Cross. Catherine Cross will do anything to protect her public image. Like, she's one of those pastors that also go on TV, like they have their own TV show. Wild. When her daughter goes missing. But it's all a bit suspicious and she doesn't seem to care. All she seems to care about is the attention that this is bringing her way and keeping her public image like squeaky clean. Catherine's eldest daughter is called Emily and she's the bit of the black sheep of the family. She thinks it's very weird how her mum is acting and she starts to fall down a rabbit hole in finding out if her mum was involved in this or not. So if you like a bit more of like a religious cult, this is one to check out. You will also be supporting an indie author, which is like absolutely incredible. Do you know what I mean? Like, we need to be supporting our indie authors. I was on YouTube searching up like mega church documentaries. That's how much of a rabbit hole I fell down. The Centre by Aisha Manazir Siddiqui is another one that I don't see nearly enough people speaking about, like at all. This book is so criminally underrated. I can't wrap my head around it. In the centre, we meet Anisha. Anisha is a Bollywood translator, so she spends her time translating Bollywood films into English. She meets a boyfriend, and he seems to be very good at languages. And like, he can learn a language in 2 weeks. Like, he goes off somewhere to this place, comes back, and he's fluent in another language in 2 weeks. And she's like, that's a bit weird. How the hell have you done that? Through an invite-only program called The Centre. So of course, he is going to refer her so she can brush up on her language skills and get into more translating work. But how are The Centre making you learn a language in 2 weeks? Well, you're going to have to read the book to find out, because I can guarantee you will never see where this book goes. I would say it's more literary rather than like your typical popcorn thriller, but it's like definitely leans into like literary horror thriller. I bloody loved it. That ending, I can't. Another one that I did actually speak about in my spooky season TBR, I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record, guys, but it's a thriller books by Trope video, and it's The Collective by Alison Galen. You can never speak too much about your favourite books, right? In this book, we meet Camille. Camille is a grieving mother. Her daughter died 5 years ago, and the man that she thinks is responsible was not brought to justice. One day, she attends an event where he is at. She causes a scene and gets herself kicked out, but she attracts the attention of a woman who says, "We are just like you," and hands her a business card called The Collective. To access The Collective, you have to go on the dark web. Something about me and the dark web is it fascinates me. I would never in a million years attempt to go on it. I'm way too scared for that shit, but I love reading about it. When she gains access, she meets a whole group of grieving women who have also lost their children and believe that their killers were not brought to justice. They're talking about ways that they're going to get revenge, and Camille starts to think like, are these people role playing, or have I got myself involved in something that I did not want to? This book is wild. Absolutely wild. I read it a few years ago, and it's another one that I think about all the time, and I can't recommend enough. Okay, now I want to give a bit of a disclaimer for this next book because I actually didn't enjoy this book. I really actually didn't like it. It's probably like my least favourite cult book. But just because I didn't like a book doesn't mean that you're not going to like it. So I did want to include it as like a cult recommendation, but just go into it knowing that like I didn't like it. So if you hate it, you can't blame me. When She Returned by Lucinda Berry follows the story of Kate. Kate went missing from a parking lot 11 years ago and was never seen again. Nobody ever knew what happened to her. She left behind her husband and a young child when one day she turns back up out of the blue with a baby being like, help me. The only problem is Kate's husband's remarried and he's got another kid, and now his wife, who had gone missing, has turned back up. The police start to think that Kate was involved in a cult that was circulating around the area, and is she still under the grips of that cult or not? I think my problem with this book is like it wasn't very twisty. Like Lucinda Berry, don't get me wrong, like her books are so easy to read, and she is actually a psychologist, so I feel like a lot of her books come from a place of fact, but I think I went into this book expecting it to be more of a thriller than what I actually got. And like I just looked at my Goodreads review, and like I say in it, like the first 70% I absolutely flew through. I loved it, but I just thought it was very predictable, which is why I didn't like it. Brother by Anya Alborn. I don't know if you could class this as a cult book. I would say yes, because it follows a family of cannibals, like a legit family of like people who kill people and eat them. So maybe. Our main character is a boy called Michael, and he has been brought up in this family that see humans as their dinner. But like, he's not quite on board with it. He does obviously get involved because like it's his mum, his dad, his sister, his brother. Like he feels like he has no choice. But he's starting to think like, maybe this isn't the life for me. He meets a girl and decides like, this is my chance. This is how I can get out and start a new life for myself. This is more of a character study of this cannibalistic family. Like when I was reading it, I was thinking of that film Wrong Turn. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh God, this book is incredible. So many of you guys have also told me that you also love this book, but just go into it knowing that it's like more of a character study versus a fast-paced thriller horror book. Okay, before we finish this video, I do just want to tell you about some cult books that I have on my TBR and ones that I am planning to read very soon. And the first one is actually by Anya Alborn, and it's called Within These Walls. We follow a guy called Lucas who is a struggling author when he is offered the chance to write a book all about an infamous cult leader who is now serving life in prison. Lucas travels down to New York and to the house where the crimes all took place and this cult lived. But when he gets there, he starts to feel something creepy. And like, I don't know if this book is given like haunted house. I don't know if it's going to be paranormal. From the blurb, that's what I've got, but I've not read it yet, so who knows. This is one that's been recommended to me so many times, but for some reason it's really hard to get your hands on some of Anya Alborn's books in the UK, but it's high up there on my radar and has been for a very long time. The next book is Just Like Mother by Anne Heltzel. Now, I actually did start reading this book. I want to say it was like a year ago, but like I wasn't loving it when I was reading it, and I thought I've got such high hopes for this book. Maybe it's just not the right time right now. So let me put it down and I'll come back to it. I've not gone back to it yet, but I really, really want to. This book follows Maeve and Andrea. They grew up as children in a cult together. They were cousins. They were rescued from this all-female cult and lived very different lives. They've now reconnected 20 years later and their lives still couldn't be more different. Maeve is struggling to make ends meet, where Andrea is a very successful lifestyle creator. Like, she's got her own company. But as they start to come closer, Maeve starts to think that maybe Andrea hasn't let go of the cult after all. If You Lie by Caleb Stevens, I can't count how many times that this book has been recommended to me. And I don't think I've ever really looked into it when people have been like, oh, you'll really enjoy this. Anyway, I read the blurb and I need to read it immediately. This follows Olivia. 7 years ago, Olivia was kidnapped, put in the trunk of a car, and she very nearly got kidnapped, but she managed to escape. She's now a true crime podcaster and tries to help other people who have been in her situation and tell their stories. Olivia is invited by her estranged sister to go on a luxury cruise, a chance to get away. And like I said, they haven't been having a great time and they want to go and spend some lovely time together. But this cruise seems a little bit too good to be true. They're on it, the people are lovely, but then somebody goes missing and Olivia thinks that she is on a floating prison. I mean, say less. A Deadly Influence by Mike Omer. Now, this was recommended to me on one of my recent videos by my friend Griff Reads. I'll leave her channel in the description. Go check her out. I love her. Because it involves bloody cults, obviously, is what this video is about. And I downloaded it immediately. It's already on my Kindle because it was on Kindle Unlimited, so it's already on my Kindle. And do you know what else it comes with? The audio. I love it when Kindle Unlimited books come with the audio. The main character in this book is a girl called Abby who is a hostage negotiator, so nothing phases her, you know. But one day, Abby is contacted by a girl named Eden from her past, who they were both escapees from a cult. They were in a cult together and they both escaped. And Eden has now said to Abby, my son has been kidnapped. I need your help because there's a $5 million ransom that they're holding over my head. But is it going to all lead back to that dodgy little cult? I also think this one is part of a series, but I don't know if the rest of the storylines are going to be cult based. You know, I feel like they're just going to follow the main character. But regardless, it's downloaded and ready to go. And that's it, guys. That is the end of this video. Like I said, this is going to be the first of many. I'm so excited to do this series for you. I hope you've got some good recommendations. If you do have any recommendations for me, please leave them in the comments. Thank you so much for taking the time to click on this video. It means more than I can explain to you. I'd love it so much if you could hit the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. I can't explain how much it actually helps me. I'll see you next time.